The Sports Source is brought to you by Fast Frame, with exciting Vol sports prints now available.
This is The Sports Source, presented by Bill Hotz and Associates, and by Renewal by Andersen, with your host, John Pennington.
Good Sunday morning and welcome into year 15 of The Sports Source, presented by Bill Hotz and Associates. We appreciate them for making this show possible, but we wouldn't have been here for 15 years if it weren't for you. So we appreciate you for making this possible. We're going to have more Georgia Tech coverage than you can possibly stomach. It's going to be like you're up here. You're going to be that full of it. It's going to be great stuff. We've got 9 people on the panel today, 5 media guys, including myself, and 4 VFLs. Let's get her started. First segment of our show, brought to you by Bill Hotz and Associates. It's been more than 30 years since they hung out their shingle. In that time, they've won tens of millions of dollars for their clients who've been injured in car accidents through the carelessness of others. If you need an attorney, get serious. Turn to the law offices of Bill Hotz and Associates. All right, want to welcome in round one, wave one of our panelists. We have Bob Hodge back yet again.
Good morning.
Former Vol Will Overstreet, VFL I should say, people will start emailing me. Jimmy Himes is right down there, and VFL David Ligon right down there. Gentlemen, we've got some news to discuss right off the bat in our headlines segment. Let's take a look at right where we left off, the walking wounded. You've got battle-scarred Vols. Darren Kirkland Jr. out for the year, knee injury, and now we find out yesterday that it looks like Austin Smith, another linebacker, out for the Georgia Tech game with a sprained knee. So let me come back and show you this. Maybe we can get a shot of this on the desk. There's what your linebacker situation looks like if you go by Tennessee's 2 deep at the moment. So your weak side linebacker would be Cortez McDowell. Middle linebacker would be former walk-on Colton Jumper. And then with Smith's out on the strong side, if you go 4-3, Daniel Batuli looks to be the guy that would step up. And I believe he's coming off an injury as well from last year. So when you look at that, my question is this. You've talked about running a 4-3 all off season. You've practiced it to get ready for this Georgia Tech option. Would you rather go to your 4-2-5 that you used most of the time last year if it means getting more experienced or better players on the field? Or is it too late in the situation to even make that change from a 4-3 to a 4-2-5? Because we're talking about kickoff tomorrow night. What does this do for Tennessee? Anybody who wants it can jump right in.
I think it's a situation, you've got a big problem. I mean, you're in a little bit of trouble right now because you were going to be called out in this decision, and you're probably going to rethink this decision, hindsight 2020, however this works out. But I think at the beginning of the game, you said we've still got the players who know this defense that we were going to put in for Georgia Tech. Let's at least go out there in the first and second series and see what they can do to try to stop it. If it's not working then I'm starting to look at other options, and I'm starting to say I got to get the other guys on the field and get my best guys out there and not just play for this one team.
I don't think going to the 4-2 would be a huge problem for the players. That's your defense. That's what you play. That's what they know. I think the problem is that defense is not built to stop this kind of an offense. This kind of an offense is 4-2 is it?
Yeah.
Stop the passing game.
Yep.
Stop what everybody's doing these days. It's not a run-stop offense.
And basically what I'm getting at, though, is do you feel it would still be, in essence, a 4-3-5? We're just talking about running up. Do you have a better safety, or Rashawn Gall, do you have a better hitter at your safeties now than you do with these backup linebackers? That's more of what I'm getting at.
I think the decision that they make will be a mandate on what they think about that, about their secondary. And would it be that big of a deal if this happened 4 weeks ago, a month ago at the start of camp? Probably not. I think it's just the timing so close to the game.
And I think I'd probably stick with the 4-3. And also with that, I may be more tempted to take Bates and put him back outside. I don't know that Batuli, he's really a middle linebacker. Yeah. And I'm not so sure I wouldn't try to move Bates over. Look, Elliott Berry was injured last year. Sapp's coming off an ACL. I don't know how healthy they are. So I'd probably stick with a 4-3 and move Bates to the outside and Batuli back inside.
Okay, let's go to the second headline in our headline segment if we've got this. We may not have it. It's week one of the football show. So, there it is. Iceberg right ahead. All right, so my question is this, though. Tennessee fans, you're facing a strong run team with a wounded D that couldn't stop the run last year. That's not good. But Georgia Tech, they're breaking in a new quarterback. The last 2 times they opened with an FBS foe, Boston College, Virginia Tech, they rushed for less than their season average. So wasn't a fast start when they went against a Power 5. So my question is, if there's an iceberg ahead, Who's it ahead of? Who's got the bigger challenge? Tennessee preparing for an option team in week 1, or Georgia Tech trying to get up to speed with their option and new people running it for an FBS defense?
I'm going to say the biggest challenge is for Tennessee based on how bad their defense was last year. I know that's kind of going into the past, but their defense was bad last year.
And for an opener, what else do you have to go on?
Exactly. So I just think the biggest challenge is for Tennessee because your rush defense was historically terrible.
And this offense is not something you're used to going against. I mean, you don't play Georgia Tech every year. And the fact that while I don't know if they're wearing orange or white tomorrow, but
orange.
So they're wearing orange. They're the home team. It's an away game for them. And so, I mean, that you throw that in there in the mix, and I think it's a bigger challenge for Tennessee.
I think it's a bigger challenge for Tennessee also, and part of that is you're trying to devise a defense, basically what Bob Shoop said, for one game. Even though Georgia Tech has different pieces in place, it's the same system. And so I think that they would probably be better equipped to run the same system. And also those two teams you mentioned, Boston College and Virginia Tech, were pretty good defensive teams. Mm-hmm. So I would say Tennessee would have the tougher challenge.
Will, you agree?
By far. I think it's Tennessee. I mean, you've got a bunch of new guys. What is the option really going off? It's really challenging with the quarterback read against your defensive ends. Both guys are new starters, haven't played a lot of football. They're going at them. They're going to see how good a game they have. And then from there, like we talked about, linebacker, you got a lot of inexperienced guys that just don't have a lot of playing time. And we're not real athletic and got a lot of speed at that position either.
And you're also talking about this, you're playing an offense where, and we'll get into whether or not you need to be disciplined or aggressive versus this offense. Well, you need to be disciplined either way. But when you look at this defense and these guys, they weren't getting the maximum number of reps. They were the backups. So in terms of making the right read, seeing the keys right, you got guys that didn't even get the most snaps in practice, which I think makes it an even bigger challenge for Tennessee if you wind up with these guys. Because not only is it's not like you're throwing these guys in against an offense that you see every other week. So you've got the weird offense, and now you've got backups who didn't get as much practice time against it, who are going to be thrown in against
and then you throw in last year that this wasn't a good tackling team either. I mean, Tennessee last year wasn't a good tackling team. This is going to be a ground game. The running backs, I mean, it's usually harder to tackle a running back than an inside receiver. So nothing adds up for Tennessee, I think, going into this going, oh, they've got the advantage defensively here. I mean, there's just nothing out there, and then you pile on the injuries into it. It may come down. It doesn't matter what kind of defense you play. I mean, with the linebackers being hurt.
It's a bad deal to be starting out. And a little later in the show, I'll ask all the former players, in year 5, how are we sitting here talking again about a lack of depth at linebacker? Now, I want to say this early. These guys we're showing, you may have 3 All-Americans on there that we don't know about. But on paper, week 1, going by what we have seen, it's a concern. And we'll discuss how you could be at that point in year 5 a little later in this show. When we come back, we're going to talk about the best way to defend Tech's offense, and we'll also tell you what you can expect from Tennessee's new starting quarterback. Maybe both of them play. We'll talk. Come on back.